Hey everyone, and happy snow day. So, because we are not making up any school days at the end of this school year, we are required to give you guys assignments on days that are categorized as snow days. That way, we don't have to make up any days at the end. So, I am giving you directions for today's snow day work because instead of getting it live and in person like we normally would, this will have to be done asynchronously. I do want to also remind you that I will have office hours on February 2nd from 12 until 1 p.m. So Tuesday from 12 to 1 is the designated time for all social studies teachers to hold office hours. So you can meet me then. I will post a Google Meet code for you and the rest of the blocks that I teach because I teach a lot of different sections and everyone needs to be able to have access to the office hours. All right, so what I want to do today is just kind of talk about the assignment that I'm giving you, kind of talk you through it so that there's less confusion. But again, I'll be around all day. I'll be shoveling, I'll be doing grading, I will be doing boring stuff. So if you need help, reach out either before our designated office hours or during the office hours or even later in the day, whatever you need. So right now I'm just presenting your classroom page and you see a couple of grayed out assignments. These are the assignments that will be released to you. Should be tomorrow, but they also said I could release them tonight. And so I'm going to release them Monday 2/1. And so that'll give you even extra time to work on it. Maybe you're bored tonight, you just want to get out of the way, whatever the case may be. The other rule for snow day assignments is that because it's a snow day, you might have power outages, you might have other issues because of the snow. And we need to make accommodations for that. So you get a full week to do this, but I would highly suggest you get it done now. That way it doesn't build up and you don't forget about it later on. Remember, all your classes are giving you these, so you might as well use the day to your advantage and get the stuff done so you don't have to worry about it later. But you do have a full week to get these assignments done. So the first one I want to talk about is this one. This is going to be your main assignment. You're going to be using Freedom's Journal sources. So the sources from last week's assignment. Maybe it wasn't last week. Let's see here. Maybe it was actually a little further back. Freedom's Journal 125 and 122. All right. So these assignments, Freedom's Journal, that's what we're going to be using today for our review. We're trying to review this topic, make sure you guys having a good understanding of it, but also use this topic to develop some writing skills, things that we need to develop not only for history class, but English and other subjects for not only this year, but your future years here at Braintree High and wherever else your future takes you. So we're going to do a writing activity. So I'm going to show you this assignment and kind of explain it as well. First of all, you're only doing one slide. So, yes, you need to look through the documents. Yes, you need to follow the directions, but you only have to do one slide. And so, this will be an individual assignment. Other classes today had to do it in breakout groups, but because of the snow day, you'll do it individually. So, if your last name starts with the letter A all the way through D, you guys are going to be doing documents A, B, and C. So what does that mean? When you open this up, if your last name starts with A through D, you're only doing this slide. That's all you have to do. I'm going to explain how to write a thesis in a minute. The documents you're using are right here. You want to use the modified ones because these are going to be the most straightforward and most simple to use. So let's go back. If you are F through M, meaning your last name starts with F all the way to M. F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. Okay? You guys are doing slide 4. So you have to write your thesis based on only D and E, documents D and E. If your last name starts with N, as in Nancy, through the letter W, you guys are going to be responsible for slide 5, and you're going to write your thesis and your evidence on slide 5 only. You can leave slides 3 and 4 blank. So this is going to cut down on your workload. If you don't follow the directions and you do them all, that's fine too. But that is all you need to do for today's work. So now I'm going to spend the rest of the time just explaining what you should be doing. Most of you are coming in here probably with very little experience writing thesis statements, and that's completely okay. This is just the first step, okay? So in preparation for today's class, please open your Freedoms Journal lesson slides and the corresponding documents. So here's the documents you want to open up. When you open them, it'll look like this. If you are in the first group, you're working with document A, document B, and document C. If you're in the second group, you're working with document D and document E. And then if you're in the final group, you're working with document F only. Remember, those documents are linked here. Okay, so what are you supposed to do? You're going to be doing this individually, so not necessarily together, but you're going to craft a hypothesis. So just like biologists and chemists and other scientists, social scientists or historians propose explanations based on limited evidence, primary sources. So an example of a scientific example would be, what effect does the use of social media have on the attention span? And your hypothesis might be, as time is spent on social media increases, attention span decreases. And you could use a scientific experiment and scientific method to essentially test that theory. Historians don't go that into depth, but we definitely use the same idea. You have to make claims about the evidence that you find. And what we're trying to focus on here is only giving you limited evidence, not letting you look at all the documents together to write your thesis, but rather having you force yourself to limit yourself to only a few documents or 2 documents, or in the case of the last group, only 1 document. So the only real requirement here is that your finished statement, your individual thesis statement, has to be clear and defensible with the documents you were assigned. The second part is it needs to be free of spelling and grammatical errors. Note, if your group has been assigned the 1 document, so the last slide, slide 5, you should be prepared to share 2 or 3 ways that that document supports your hypothesis. So just because there's only 1 document doesn't mean you just pull 1 thing from it. You're going to pull multiple things from that 1 document. All right, so that's a lot to digest. So I also attached a second helpful slide for you. And these are some notes that I've used in the past to help students understand what we're looking for in a thesis statement. So a thesis statement should answer the question. So if you notice, sorry, I'm going to flip back. If you notice, every single one of these slides has the same question. What's the purpose of Freedom's Journal? What's the purpose of Freedom's Journal? What's the purpose of Freedom's Journal? Okay, so when you do that, you're answering the question. So your thesis statement absolutely has to answer the question. The question is asking you, what's the purpose of Freedom's Journal? Now, if you're working with documents A, B, and C, the purpose of Freedom's Journal might be different than if you're working with documents E and D, or if you're working with document F. So don't worry if it's not going to be the same as other people's, because your documents are different than other people's documents. So you have to make your hypothesis, your thesis statement, your claim based on whatever information is available to you. So you have to answer the question. And through that question, you establish that time period, right? It should take a position. This is a part you have to defend. You can't be wishy-washy. You can't say, it could be this, it could be that. No, you have to say what it is And then you can argue it later on in your paper. But you're just making a claim, you're taking a position that you could defend if you had to, but you don't necessarily have to because you're just working on the thesis. It should preview the main points, right? These are the main points you're going to make. These are the main points that you found in the documents that were provided to you. It should provide a roadmap to your essay. If you say you're going to talk about abolishing slavery and supporting African Americans and celebrating Black achievement, then those are three things that you would point out as to what you want to talk about for the rest of your essay. We're not writing essays, we're just writing thesis statements, so keep it simple. And sometimes I like to call it a trident, okay? A trident is a three-pronged weapon, right? You have Aquaman, you have Percy, you have all these different characters, you have Poseidon. They have made the trident popular, so you should know what that means. And this is kind of a trident down here, right? Your thesis statement is the long spear portion of it, right here. And each of the tridents, or each of the prongs, each of the points, are going to be a point of your thesis statement. So I think it's this, based on this, this, and this. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to explain your points. You just have to show in your documents where you're going to use that evidence. So the thesis is a spear or the handle right here. This is an example slide, and each group or main point will branch out with supporting ideas, the prongs. So for instance, we were studying Islam last year, so this is an example I use for a thesis statement. The Islamic Empire spread through conversion, cultural interaction, and the skill of Arab leaders. So if you can see here, this is your thesis statement. You're making a claim that this is how the Islamic Empire spread. These are the different points you're going to touch upon later on in the essay. This is just a thesis statement. That's as simple as it has to be, right? You don't have to explain this. You don't owe any explanations for this stuff until you would actually do a paper. We're not writing a paper. All right. What else should I tell you about this assignment? I think that's about it, but just make sure that you're also providing your evidence here. So let's just look at one really carefully. Let's look at document F because I think that could be the hardest one. So document F is the editorial, and this comes in the first ever edition of this newspaper. Remember, this newspaper was written by free African Americans in the North in New York City prior to the Civil War, pre-Civil War. So when they want to get customers, they're going to explain in their first paper, this is why you need to read this paper. This is why this paper is a good thing for you. This is why we are writing. This is our purpose. And so when you're trying to answer the question, what's the purpose of Freedom's Journal? This is a pretty straightforward document for that, right? So you might want to talk about this as one of your points, being incorrectly represented. You might want to talk about the focus on civil rights and making sure that African Americans realize that they do have certain rights and that they should use those rights. And then also maybe you want to talk about this, that education is really the best way to uplift the society, uplift African Americans. So celebrating or offering or helping link African Americans with educational opportunities could maybe be part of that purpose of Freedom's Journal, right? So that's what I mean. Even if you only have one document, you can still pull out points, right? Still pull out prongs, different ideas or supporting ideas for that one claim that you're making. So the claim is directed at answering the question. So you answer the question and then you say, how are we going to answer that question? You're going to list the things that you're going to talk about. All right. So if this is confusing to you, that's okay. Come to office hours. But remember, you guys got to be accountable for your own work. Like you have to be accountable for your own progress. We're halfway through your freshman year. You're halfway to sophomore year. So now is when we kind of pick up the pace and the expectations and really ask that you use the tools in front of you, use the ability to communicate with your teachers, use your maturity, use your self-advocacy skills, because this is what we need you to do to be able to be successful in a remote environment. All right, guys, enjoy your snow day. Complete the slide that is assigned to you by doing the thesis statement and providing the evidence. Second part is a 5-point Google form on Freedom's Journal. Demonstrate your learning. Check for understanding. So don't just go through it as fast as you can to get 1 out of 5 points. This counts towards the heaviest part of your grade point average, 85% demonstrated learning. So use your notes, use this assignment, use the previous assignment. Use whatever you can to maximize your points, because even though it's only 5 points, it still counts towards a lot. That's all I got, guys. Have a great day, and please reach out if you need any help.